Hey, everybody. This is Ruckus the Menace, and you're listening to the Ruckus and the Menace podcast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and sports fans alike. Welcome to the Ruckus and the Menace podcast. I'm Ruckus the Menace.
And I'm Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
Yep. And that we clearly know that Ruckus has understood the assignment.
Damn it.
Oh, you left that one hanging there. But today we will be going through potential early on trade deadline things, as we are now just 5 days away from roughly right around this time, because the trade deadline is August 2nd at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So we will be taking a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the early speculation of the action that will be going on, and the potential movement of certain players around, whether or not that will happen. We'll get to break down a little bit about training camp, a little bit about NFL training camp, some things in the NFL, some major speculation in the NBA, a lot of retirements, and also a setting the lineup that will mention more about all-time quarterbacks. And, of course, our standard war room fare, our weekly stud and dud. And to go along with it here, we now will enter the leading off segment. Or, well, really, the leading off is kind of that introduction. And entering the locker room. Ruckus, what all's been new?
Really, not a whole lot. The same old, same old. I've been just kind of grinding at MLB The Show and also playing a little bit of Battlefield here and there. And recently played some Grand Theft Auto with a friend last night. But yeah, the weekend was somewhat chill. Just kind of drank beer and played video games. Really, any that's really what any bachelor would ask for, to be honest. But I also watch a lot of Bar Rescue because I love
John
just
Taffer.
Taver is pretty awesome. He looks like he has cocaine eyes whenever like he looks really serious and pissed off, but it's good cocaine eyes. But I love the fact that
That is
you'll
the
see like
weirdest way that you have described something ever.
okay, his eyes pop out and it's really weird at times. Anyways, moving on. I love how like you go from like the crappy bar to like the awesome bar, and sometimes it doesn't always work out that way, but it's hilarious when you get to see like the flaws of a bar, and then like you eventually dramatically see either a good amount of things happening to the bar where the managers actually care more because they actually got saved more, hence the name Bar Rescue. But like there are some managers that just are oblivious to it. Like there's this one episode where this like guy that looks like William Dafoe, if he had like a little bit like darker caramel skin, and he has this, it's like the bar theme was like heavy metal and it was weird, but that wasn't like the worst of it. Like the guy literally had cockroaches in his like freaking Jack Daniel bottles and like other cocktail like vodka bottles and stuff like that. And the whole place was infested with roaches. And that episode was disgusting, and that person in general was disgusting. But that's all I'm gonna say about that. Other than that, yeah, um, just straight up playing a lot of Vigima games when I'm not at work, and a lot of sleeping. That's pretty much it. But how have you been, Spennis?
Well, I would say kind of the biggest focus that has kind of consumed a lot of my time has been the discussion of houses and trying to prepare to set the table for that particular side of things. This will also lead to a major announcement here, Ruckus. I would have probably done this with you off, but I think I'm going to make this a little more public. Um the fourth week in August, which would be, I believe it is the 24th. I think we're going to go no pod that week. Just on the simple basis of we'll have about 2 weeks before the NFL season kind of really kicks off. Kind of gives us a little bit of a week to kind of really hone in on NFL preview type material over the next like 2 weeks after that. The next like 2 weeks after that. So and then it also gives us a little bit more time to like break down wild card races and really set ourselves up for kind of more what like football season is going to look like for us.
Right. There's only so much stuff you could really talk about during training camp, anyways, besides roster cuts. But that's just like on a per team basis, and like there's not a whole lot when it comes to that, anyways.
Yeah.
Um,
So and that's where that extra bye week in the preseason kind of really kicks in too. Is that I think they only play 3 preseason games and 17 regular season games. That that kind of that time frame is really a perfect time to try and move my fiance up here and have a lot of energy and time kind of really focused on that and preparing for that and kind of taking that taking that segment of time as really just time away from pod to really focus on an important thing.
yeah, no worries.
But what little other time that I've had that hasn't been so much focused on talking about the housing, talking about kind of like trying to rest and trying to work. I've been messing around a little bit with MLB The Show with this program. This program's been a little bit more slow moving, especially because I then completed all the stuff for Big Poppy, completed all of the All Star stuff, and then it's like, now what? Now I then go and I finish my MTO. It's like, now what?
Yeah, I've just been
uh,
kind of grinding a little bit, but I haven't like spent a whole lot of energy like I was back whenever the game started to actually play the crap out of it. But yeah,
it
I haven't.
it's becoming more of a chore. I now have like 2 games that on my PlayStation 5 right now that I just kind of want to get into, and I'm wanting to eventually get into Stray. I'm wanting to get into Multiversus, which is the Warner Brothers fighting game, and also along with that,
Hold on, hold
try,
on, hold on.
try and get back to continuing Tiny Tina.
Actually, go ahead. Sorry. This
Well,
is something we could
What
talk
were you
about
talking?
later.
Multiversus.
No, I was talking about something different. This is breaking news, but we could talk about it later on.
Oh, did we have some? It was it a sport breaking thing?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we're getting ready to hit the weekly. We're getting ready to hit the weekly lineup now. If it's that
Um,
much of a thing, hit it.
all right. So y'all ready for this?
I think we're about as ready as we're gonna be,
All right.
especially if this is good or bad.
So for MLB trades, the first big one for the Kansas City Royals just hopped into my feed. The Royals will receive 3 minor league pitchers in return for an outfielder named Andrew Benintendi from
This is
to the Yankees.
terrible. Like this is really bad.
What do you mean? We get 3 minor league pitchers for to give them an outfielder.
Okay. Do we know who those pitchers are?
Beckway, Chandler Champlin, and DJ Sakima. The so Beckway is number 21 on the Yankees top 30. Chandler Champlin and TJ Sakema, or I guess Chandler Champlin has been there, but TJ Sakema is number 19 on the prospects or top
Wait.
30 or whatever.
So you have TJ Sakema, who is currently at Hudson Valley as an A plus, or as a high A.
Beckway,
Beckway, who's also in Hudson Valley, as who also is currently prior to this trade at Hudson Valley, and who was the other one that they picked up?
Chandler, and then his last name is Champlain, Champlain.
And he is not in the top 30.
Yeah, he's a right-handed pitcher. Um,
I really think that the the Yankees could have given up more for Benintendi.
Also, the Yankees begin a series against the Royals in the Bronx on Thursday,
But
which is tomorrow.
this is not considered a trade across the hall.
Right.
Like the reason why it is called a trade across the hall
As if
is
it was
because
literally they were playing in the same stadium
in
at the
the same
time.
in the same series at the time.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be different because Benintendi has to travel with the Royals for Wednesday night, but then go to but then instead of going with the Royals has to go to the other side. I
To
mean,
think
Aaron
I
Boone
just bought.
says that he's
To think
obviously a
I.
really good.
Sorry.
Yeah, but here's the annoying thing is that Benintendi wasn't able to go to Toronto because of the COVID vaccine.
Well, he needs to
And
get it.
it's unclear whether or not Benintendi will get vaccinated because the only series they have left to go to Toronto is in late September.
Also, didn't everybody else from that team get vaccinated? Like, isn't Aaron Judge vaccinated, or is he still not?
I'm not sure about Aaron Judge. I mean,
Because he's
as
looking
far as
for
like
a.
vaccination stuff like that, that's their business.
Right. I said because I remember last time when they went to Toronto, there was a whole thing about they needed or I think it was actually in their own home because like back whenever the season started, the New York had a whole uh guideline that was going on, so like they couldn't even play at their own stadium.
Yeah,
So
because I think Toronto was involved in that 2020 season, and they had to play outside the stadium in order to have it there because Canada had tight regulations.
well, not even that. Like New York, like the city of New York or state of New York had a COVID guideline that was like, okay, we can't. You have to be vaccinated in order to play. Like it wasn't just
Right.
Toronto or Canada in general as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. But this makes it interesting. This makes it interesting to see what Benintendi would do, but I don't 100% like the deal. Just I mean, Benintendi is going now to a stadium that's a little bit more of a wind tunnel. But I was not thinking the Yankees would have really made a play for that, and I think they gave up like a lot less than what they probably could have for Benintendi.
Well, that's the price of being a small market team too. If you, because like the last time we had a big trade as a Royals fan, the last big trade we had was when we traded Moose to the Brewers. But the Brewers were also kind of like a mid-range market team, where it's like, okay, you could get, because what we got from Moose was Jorge Lopez, which is now a star reliever of the Orioles. We got Brett Phillips, which is now a semi all-star with the Rays, and I think that was it. Him, Jorge Lopez, him, and maybe someone named later.
And,
I don't know, but
and Brett Phillips is one of the funniest players and most fun players
dude, he's
in
like
all
one
of
of
the
the most
majors.
active ones too. But yeah, like again with this Benintendi trade, it's gonna take a while to like kind of process it and see like if it was good or not. Personally, I like it because here's the thing: yes, they're no-name pitchers, but eventually they will be named. And for the love of God, the Royals need bullpen help. The last time they had a good bullpen was when they won the World Series, and the year before when they almost got close. Kelvin Herrera was the guy that came out of the farm system, and I don't know if he was actually like grown up from the AAA or single A to AAA to the big leagues from straight up from the Royals organization, or if he was traded and then gathered from us because of a trade. Him and like many others, we'll just have to see how that goes. But I would rather have young arms that have potential versus people that we kind of have on either a minor league deal or people that we just kind of signed on the cheap that just suck. Because that's what we've had for like the past couple of years with the bullpen. And the only bullpen we have is Scott Barlow, Josh Staumont, if you really count him as being good, and then um, I guess Chris Bubich, but he's more of a starter role now. But again, we need young people. We need as many people as we can get to see who we can weed out as far as who is good and who needs more time. That's all I'm gonna say.
I mean, Sakema looks like there's promise there. Um, Beck Beck Way looks like you might be able to get a little something out of it. So I mean, you got one prospect out of the top 20, and they're estimating that both Beck Way and TJ Sakema would have been 2023 estimated arrivals. So if this truly is right on schedule, then then they probably then this probably may be a decent trade. This may be a decent trade down the line,
Also,
but I don't know if they're starters or relievers.
to
And
be
I think
honest with you, the way that I just realized this now, the fact that like Benintendi is still like kind of like under team control and was like cheap for the most part because he was like he was still technically like on a semi rookie deal like arbitration, but like he's kind of like on the same boat as like Otani, but on the way of like he would, let's say this, let's say Otani got traded to the Yankees. He's not gonna get the bag right away. He still has to play and show whatnot, like how he who he is. The same is with Benintendi. You get a guy that's worth yay amount right now, and then later you either pay him or get rid of him. Most
oh,
likely they get rid of him, but like, um, yeah, like
it could be
the
that
value
Benintendi is around.
for his value and the fact that it's a small market team didn't help that he could have that the Royals could have gotten more from the Yankees for that.
But here's the other question I'm going to throw at you. What does this mean for Joey Gallo?
Not our
Could could
problem.
could the Yankee Well, I'm seeing this from a Yankee perspective here. Like, what does this mean for Joey Gallo? Is Joey Gallo now going to kind of be more of that permanent mainstay DH like he's already doing, or is he now going to get possibly dealt due to the overload that comes about? Because you still have Aaron Hicks, you still have Aaron Judge, you still have Giancarlo Stanton. I mean,
You bring back Tyler
Gallo
Wade as
stacks
well.
it. Gallo stacks it. Like Gallo kind of stacks that outfield, but Benintendi is just as much of a defensive asset as what even Joey Gallo can be.
Benintendi gets on base though.
That is true.
Like
Benintendi would also hit
if
for
I had to
more
point at
sacrifice flies in his career.
if I had to point at someone like Billy Bean does in Moneyball to Pete, I would have to say, what does he do? And then snap my fingers and then point to Pete, aka Jonah Hill, and then Jonah Hill says, get on base.
But you've heard a staggering statistic about Joey Gallo, right?
Yeah, he's a strikeout machine.
He only has 2 sacrifice flies in his whole career. This guy has a light tower power bat, but has only hit for 2 sacrifice flies his entire career.
Yeah, I
But
don't know.
now we have a couple of different things happening. I mean, we had the Vogelbach thing. We can now kind of pass through the Benintendi thing of the high heat, but this was definitely breaking news that needed to come around. But we're gonna actually start with the NFL for the weekly lineup. Beyond that, 2 notable retirements in the NFL as Danny Amendola and KJ Wright both retire. And a couple of notable release in D Ford. And Metcalf is currently not practicing for the Seahawks due to being in the middle of deal talks. But I think through all of those crazy little things, we've got one other fun little thing with the NFL. Alternate helmets in the NFL are slowly being revealed. 13 teams, including the already revealed Washington Commanders alternate helmet, have been, so 12 others have been unveiled. Which ones have the most excitement for you, and are there any excitement for alternate this rule being lifted that teams now can use alternate helmets?
I'm excited for the New Orleans Saints one.
Wow, I mean that's an interesting choice. New Orleans is actually not in my top 5.
I mean that and the Patriots one as well, but
The Patriots one is about borderline there,
that and the
but I have
Cowboys one and the Giants one, but yeah, go
the
ahead.
Giants. The Giants are in my top 5. I had the Bengals in my top 5, the Falcons in my top 5. Actually, I probably would have had my other top 5 be the Patriots and the Cardinals. And the Commanders one is okay for a team that was rebranding. But even the Cowboys going with that classic, it's like you're so used to seeing the silver helmet. But a lot of teams decided to go black. Carolina's is black. The Jets went black. The Commanders went black. The Eagles went black. The Saints chose to go black. The Bears decided to go orange, but it's orange on orange, which really doesn't help. the Falcons were the only team to choose to go red, and they avoided it being red on red.
Yeah, the only
But
one
my
I'm not a
favorite,
fan of is the Texans one.
yeah, that Texans one, as far as the red, like the red on red, just really doesn't help. But I do love the Giants classic helmet. Like they did everything right. Like the Giants looked like they did everything right, and the Cincinnati one is straight drip because you basically just strip away the orange from it, and it's pretty much the same. It's like you're not really breaking very much like formula. You've just, instead of turning it in from a regular orange Bengal tiger into a white Bengal tiger, like doing the white tiger element, which is exciting.
Yeah, I
It's more
still.
exciting than what it really. It's more exciting than what really could be shown, and I don't think it could have been any more fitting than with the young core that Cincinnati has.
Yeah, they're gonna have to rub some dirt on it when the Chiefs sack the crap out of Burrow and whomever whoever they can get to, and also there might be a little blood on the helmet. So just a fair warning to the Bengals fans out there: blood will be shed.
Yeah, because I don't see the Cincinnati schedule getting any easier. Oh, I also forgot one notable piece of NFL thing. After the alternate helmets, the Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray's new $230 million contract has a clause in it that mandates 4 hours of outside of regular meetings film study per week. Does this mean that really that Kyler had a reputation for not studying and causing more losses because of that, or is this a sign of a young quarterback needing to really hone his craft?
I feel like it's a little bit of both, but maybe it's also just like an I don't know. Have we ever seen this beyond any other like
Mandatory film study, this is unprecedented. We've seen weight goals, we've seen a whole bunch of other things, but this is the first time that we've seen this. So I think this means that really they're trying to get Kyler Murray to lock in, because that NFC West, other than that, San Francisco has weakened themselves by their choosing to start Trey Lance, and the LA Rams being one of the best teams, if not the best team still in the NFL. I think Kingsbury and the Arizona front office are really wanting Kyler to lock in and be the best that they possibly can be. Shifting gears now, do we want to go to baseball or basketball? Basketball, there's only one story. We've got about a few others for baseball.
let's start with basketball.
All right. Well, basketball, the biggest thing that was there is that the Celtics are now in trade talks, or have gone through a set of trade talks for Kevin Durant. Does this go anywhere?
No.
You don't see it going anywhere?
I mean, it hasn't gone anywhere currently. It's just a news article. There's no like said evidence that said otherwise. Um, even if even if Katie was like, "Oh, I talked to like so and so player on the Celtics," it still isn't change anything. It's just like, oh, okay, well, maybe KD comes or doesn't. It's the same thing with any other league. So, like, personally, if I was KD, I would be happy with what I got and just played ball. I haven't seen him play ball since 2016 or 2017 at a very competitive level, or at least trying.
Here's where I'm at on it. I don't think this goes anywhere. And it would require this deal would require Jaylen Brown and or Marcus Smart to be traded away.
And a kidney.
And quite possibly an arm and a leg. But where I'm going with this is that you are mortgaging the entire defensive integrity of the Boston Celtics on a dynamic score that may or may not really be much of a help. You're basically you're trading away, like, you'd be trading away at least one centerpiece of your defense. That was one of the top 5 in all the NBA. But granted, with the amount of scoring it happens most of the time in NBA games anymore, that's not saying much. But other than that, you've got a whole bunch of things. It's like, if you're Boston, I don't think you'd go through with it. I think you've kind of leave KD in Brooklyn to stay, because I don't think there's really a way that you can fleece the deal.
Give it to someone that might care, like Miami. Let them deal with his contract if they decide, hey, I want to trade for Kevin Durant. That's kind of semi-washed up, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think Miami is probably going to be ultimately the best destination for it, but I don't think it's going to be the right destination.
Better than the Celtics.
Yeah, much better than the Celtics.
All the Celtics are missing are like literally like 1 or 2 key players, but definitely not Kevin Durant.
Yep. Oh yeah, and I just don't like the deal from terms of, yeah, the Tatum is just like, he's like, if he comes, he comes. If he doesn't, he doesn't. It's just like, it'd be nice, but I'm okay with what I got.
Yeah.
The National Baseball Hall of Fame inductions were this past weekend, and David Ortiz and Minnie Minoso headlined the Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2022 as far as the major players that were involved.
Also, can you add Buck O'Neil to that list too?
I was going to have somebody mention later, which honestly, if you want to talk about one of the greatest contributors in all of baseball, in terms of you know who I'm talking about when I mention this guy, or when I mention this guy later.
That's fine.
Dallas Keuchel signs with the Texas Rangers to a minor league deal. The MLB Players Association rejects a proposal for an international players draft. Honestly, I would have loved for the international players draft to be a thing, sort of, because it kind of gives the international players a little bit more like separation of, like, okay, you can have like a little bit more of like a competitive market drafting wise for some of the best international players that want to come over and play in a farm system.
Right.
Because that's basically what this is. And I don't think you'll need anywhere near as many rounds as you would in the regular MLB draft. Or you shrink the MLB draft and get a few more international players, depending on what you're really kind of looking for.
Yeah, that one's a tough one I, because I'm kind of used to the effect of just having the
It seems
players
like all
just
the
literally
international
get
players are going to
signed.
big market teams.
Well, like not even that, but like like the White Sox, or not even recently, but a long time ago, they signed a bunch of. Uh, are we talk? So when it comes to the range of players that are actually being signed from like the international players draft, would it be like the Dominican Republic and all that, or would
This
it
would
just?
be your, this would be your Dominican players. I'm not too sure what goes on with the Puerto Rican players because I think Puerto Rico's a U.S. territory, but they probably do classify as international. The Japanese players, the Korean players, the Caribbean players that come from just about every sense of the Caribbean, the Venezuelans, like any player outside of the United States. And I believe this also would say the United States and Canada, but I think even Canada may be considered international.
Because to be honest with you, because the reason why I asked that is because I've seen a lot of Dominican Republic players and Cuban players and
I mean,
everywhere and
you're gonna
signed.
see them everywhere. You're gonna see them everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, because like Jose Abreu, for example, was signed for a lot of money to the White Sox, and same with many other players to other teams. But like personally, the international draft might be is like a little bit maybe too soon
I'm
if you
still here,
think
Rick.
about it. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I think the I think the draft for that is a little bit too soon. Yes, there's a lot of players that could be put into that um, draft, but I feel like for the way the league is right now, it's too soon because we don't really have a lot of places where we can really advertise the league other than like maybe Puerto Rico or the Dominican. Like the World Baseball Classic only happens every like three or
Once every few years, yeah.
yeah, and then like there's only a couple times, and COVID didn't help this either, but like there was one time in like 2017 or 2018 whenever we went when like there was a Puerto Rico game, then there was the Mexico game, then there was the London games, but God knows who would like play baseball from London. So like I don't
Yeah.
know. It's very hard to like tell and like differentiate that when you're already signing those players from the Dominican or wherever they're from. There's already a system set, so in their eyes they probably think, why would we want to have a draft when we already have a draft that's semi like
Yeah.
watchable and people are actually interacting with it? Because like with the NFL draft, it's very well watched because people know it better. Same with the NBA draft, but with the MLB, it's kind of like, eh.
But I think here's the thing there. These MLB players that get drafted by these big teams, they go right into the farm system. It's a larger farm system in baseball than there is in basketball or football because they will go straight to that team.
Right.
That's why I think there's more intrigue is that it is more so the directness of route. Because these baseball players, you may not see them for about another 2, 3 years.
Right, because like with Pat Mahomes, he was drafted, and then he sat out technically for a year, and then
A
Alex Smith
season,
was
yeah, a season, but
right.
that led to Alex Smith getting traded.
Whereas with like players like you were saying, they could take years, and it depends. But you could also make the argument later on, depending on the player's development and what have you. But
Yeah, that it'd be quick, and that varies from player to player.
right, That's my argument, but I'm not gonna go any further than that.
And the last major thing that I have that could affect a lot of things in the trade deadline is that Kevin Kiermaier and Mike Zunino are both done for the year, undergoing season ending surgeries. I will mention more about this probably in the deadline, as this could impact what the Tampa Bay Rays decide to do, as it puts them in a very, very interesting position. There's a few teams I think that are in very, very interesting positions, but we will mention that later on. And instead of going into what could be happening here over the next few, I'm going to take this back in time as we go into sports history. Everything that I have here was happened on July 27th, but to the respective year. And the interesting thing about this, Ruckus, is that this is probably the shortest span between the first thing and the last thing that I found in the podcast all throughout this time. The span is only 12 years. In 1988, Tommy John, the pitcher who is known for basically that notable elbow surgery, that of course you've heard us say Tommy John surgery. Yes, that was named after an actual pitcher.
I knew that.
Committed 3 errors on a single play. In 1992, the Houston Astros began what I would consider an unprecedented at the time, a 26-game road trip, as they were accommodating to make room, I believe, in the city of Houston, which may have even included them using the Astrodome for the Republican National Convention of 1992. In 1997, the Tigers retired Hal Newhouser's jersey number of 16. And if you definitely kept track of Two Nerds in a Pod, when I mentioned this as far as taking this from the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater angle about a month or two back, on this day in 1999, Tony Hawk became the first skateboarder to ever land the 900 in 1999.
Also,
That
fun
is
fact, there's a, as far as the tech community goes, there is a tech YouTuber I follow named Jay's 2 Cents that is doing a custom PC build for Tony Hawk, which I'm very excited to see. The last one he did was for Post Malone, and he did a Beer Bongs and Bentleys PC build where it was literally like a guitar face for a custom PC, and it was all water cooled. It was really cool. That's all I'm gonna say.
yeah, but Posty is known for a lot of his nerd stuff, which is like makes it really cool.
Yeah. But I'm really happy that JSU Sins gets to work with a legend in Tony Hawk.
Yep. But here we are. We're now to that time. We ready to throw the big cheese, Ruckus?
Can I
Time
get
for that.
a high heat?
It's time for the high heat. And
Oh
today's
yeah.
high heat topic is going to be the MLB trade deadline. Well, part one, anyway.
Oops.
No, I said the MLB trade deadline. That was actually intended. I said, well, part one, anyway. This is the before the deadline talk, because next week is after the deadline talk. So that's why I said, well, part one.
Yeah. Can
So
we just exit out Andrew Benintendi on the Google Doc really quick? We don't have to.
Yeah.
That was a joke. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Well, this this
I wonder if Benintendi has to actually shave his like beard because he kind of had like some like stubble going on, but he's probably not gonna. You're probably gonna be able to notice him compared to like other players, like Odor. Like
Yeah.
my God, that guy had a beard with the Rangers, and then
Yeah.
whenever you see him with the Yankees, it was like, nope,
But I think
nothing.
Benintendi, I think Benintendi when he was in Boston had something a little shorter too.
Yeah,
So Benintendi probably would still be somewhat recognizable.
you're like, oh yeah, traitor to Red Sox fans, you know.
True, but here's the thing: is that it's not as bad of a trader type move to go from one team to another team, then or to go to Boston to another team, then to New York, than it is to directly go from Boston to New York.
Like David Wells. Sorry, not sorry.
Johnny Damon did it. I believe Jacoby Ellsbury did it.
Yes, he did.
I believe, if I remember this correctly, Jacoby Ellsbury, I
Because he
think, was
got
also.
signed to the Yankees. He didn't get traded, but he did
Yeah,
get signed after
but
the fact.
still, even signing to the Yankees
Right. It
is
wasn't
bad.
between. It wasn't between like different squads, and then oops, he goes to the Yankees.
Yeah, yeah, it was due to the contract expiration that ultimately had that be the case.
Wasn't it also just like injury proneness too? They didn't want to pay because he would get injured.
Well, he was a big base stealer, but I think it was that he won a second ring or there in Boston, and then decided that became a free agent for the first time in his career after his contract expired. I think it was just
Sense.
I think there might have been a contract like a salary situation in Boston where we probably had so many big names that were kind of coming up that we just couldn't afford to keep him. But in but with that digression aside, the deals that have already been done at this point that are major are Benintendi to the Yankees, which we already spoke upon. But the second one that we're really going to speak upon for right now is Daniel Vogelbach going from Pittsburgh to New York. How do you feel about that one there, Ruckus?
It adds depth as far as hitting, and obviously he's. It seems like from what I've seen so far, it seems like he's seen the small market approach because beforehand he was on the Mariners, and yes, they're technically kind of like that same vibe compared to like the Pirates, but the Pirates are like a downward spiral when it comes to a franchise and like what talent they have compared to the Mariners. Um,
I think ultimately the Pirates are a Moneyball organization. You're typically your Moneyball organizations that seem to be kind of prominent in the MLB are the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Oakland Athletics, and the Tampa Bay Rays.
yep.
But actually, the Baltimore Orioles, more so because of the youth movement that they've been going on, actually have one of the lowest payrolls in all of baseball right now.
Yeah, and like I see Vogelback as being a benefit for the Mets from what I've seen so far, and and their momentum has changed a lot. Like today or tonight, they actually won the game in extra innings 2-0, I believe. Or
3-2.
yeah, um, and Max Scherzer got the win, which also helps my fantasy, I think.
Vogelbach is a left-handed bat, so this translates to an extra left-handed power bat that, if they decide to play him at first base, it gives the polar bear an extra defensive time off on the defensive side. It it gives the Mets a little bit more leeway in trading Dominic Smith as well.
Also, doesn't it also give a extra ice cold bottle of Coke to the polar bear?
That That was a stretch.
You're welcome.
That was a stretch.
I mean,
It was
Coke is
worth
pretty
a
good.
try, but you kind of had to stretch that one a little further than where it needed to go. All right. Do we want to discuss the big childish Bambino elephant in the room, or do we want to get to some of the other major names before we focus on?
Let's talk about major names.
Okay, so other than really Benintendi that just got dealt, who are kind of some of those names that we see that could get dealt within the next few days? And where they may end up deciding to go.
I see Mancini moving pretty soon. The same with Contreras or Contreras.
Wilson Contreras.
Yeah,
I see Ian.
Contreras.
I see Ian Happ possibly being a mover. I see the. Um, I also would. It would be a shock to see, but I think probably because he's playing hot and could potentially see a future payday that Colorado may or may not decide to do because of their small market and them already acquiring Chris Bryant for that type of salary with CJ Carone. I think CJ Crone could be an interesting piece. I mean, we know Frankie Montas is getting dealt. We know Luis Castillo is going to be looking to get dealt. Dominic Smith should get dealt.
I think he
I
would
think
get dealt later.
the Nationals could have interesting positions with the Boomstick and Josh Bell. Um, Wilson Contreras for the Cubs, Ian Happ, Trey Mancini from Baltimore. So, I mean, we've got a whole bunch of names that potentially could switch places, which is probably one of the most interesting trade deadline times in a while. But we're going to go right into the big elephant in the room now. Juan Soto has rejected that 15-year, $400 million deal once he kind of finally gets himself spaced in. There's a whole lot of propositions available on him. Who you think has the best chance of winning out, especially now that it has been said that Patrick Corbin now is going to have to be a required piece in this deal?
Let's say that the Yankees don't go for Shohei Ohtani or anybody else that's big, and they want a big blockbuster deal. Maybe Juan Soto goes to the Yankees, and they somehow find a way to get Gallo in there as well, and or some other prospects as well. Because not only do the Nationals want a MLB ready player, they want prospects and other stuff in the deal. I think the Yankees are the best bet, maybe the Mets, but I can see Juan Soto being dealt to the Yankees.
Okay. I am going to say pause on that for a second here. Here's the Yankees prospect list. And let me know within these 10 names that I'm going to give you, which is going to be the top 10 in the Yankees farm system, which of these do you really think the Nationals are going to want to take out of it in order to become, for Juan Soto to become a member of the New York Yankees? The first one is Anthony Volpe.
Yep.
You really think that the Yankees would send Volpe in that deal?
I mean, here's the thing. I saw a mock trade for, between the Yankees and the Nationals just to get Soto, and one of those players consisted of Nestor Cortez, Anthony Volpe, Oswaldo Peraza, and another player that, or Jason Dominguez as well for Juan Soto. So
That
the
is a major selling of the farm
right,
that you're speaking of. Because according to this list that I have here in front of my face, Volpe, Peraza, and Dominguez are the top three prospects for the New York Yankees.
according to the MLB pipeline.
According to the MLB prospects. Yep. Number 4 being Austin Wells. Then you have Ken Waldachuk, Trey Sweeney, Hayden Wesnacki, Yoandris Gomez, Luis Gil, and Everson Pereira as the top 10 prospects of the Yankees. I don't see all of them being dealt to you guys, the like as far as the Nationals would go.
Right.
I don't know exact because you have 3 different shortstops in that mix. The pitching kind of really dominates like the lower half of the top 10. You've got 2 shortstops, an outfielder, a catcher, and a left-handed pitcher in the top 5. And most of them are already going to be MLB ready at that point. Volpe's got about a couple years out, or about really a year out, and Jason Dominguez is 2 years out. So I could see Dominguez possibly being in that deal, but I really, because of the high amount of picks that you would have to mortgage out for that deal to even send Soto to Toronto, or no, not Toronto, New York, I think the Yankees are out. The team that I am really more intrigued to see be in that Soto race is actually the Cardinals. Is the St. Louis Cardinals. Because Jordan Walker would be in that deal and Mason Wynn would be in that deal. But with those two, I would also see the Nationals getting one of those outfielders of Tyler O'Neill, Harrison Bader, and or Dylan Carlson. And Patrick Corbin being thrown into the mix.
I was thinking maybe the Yankees could use Corbin as well. That's why I was thinking of that. But yeah, I agree with that statement with the St. Louis deal. But I also just don't know how deep a pockets, how deep of pockets the Cardinals have. Yes, they have Paul Goldschmidt. Yes, they have Nolan Arenado, but they're also getting paid by the Rockies to get rid of Arenado from the Rockies. But how deep of pockets do the Cardinals have, do you think?
But the fun part about Soto's deal, or Soto's current state, is that after this year, Soto goes to arbitration for 2 more years. You have 2 years of arbitration with Soto. Then he's an unrestricted free agent in his age 26 season.
Right.
The commodity there is basically piping hot. Like, it is on fire.
Yeah, like obviously you wouldn't have to pay him big bucks for still like a couple of years too.
You go for the extension now. I think ultimately because of Soto's value of money, he's in that same position as Shohei Ohtani right now. Their values are so high in terms of where their upside is and where they've performed that they are going to probably focus on getting their bag of money now. And that to me would set up Soto for a nice big deal. But I
Yeah.
think Soto should set himself up for more of a smaller deal. Honestly, if you're wanting to have multiple major pay, I would say almost like a 6 year, hundred, maybe a 6 year like nice size money deal. That gets you at least until you're like 29, 30, and then you put in another another like 6 year deal. So you basically are working out like 6 year deals, and then you can kind of then once you're like in your mid 30s, if you still have great talent left for that, you can kind of run off of like minimums or decent money if you perform extremely well.
Yeah, I get your point.
But now, instead of talking about some of the individual players, let's see more about what we think of some of the teams. Especially some of these teams that are in very, very interesting positions. Who are teams that you would think should consider selling or be more of players that are more of like preparing for a fire sale?
The Reds and Nationals for one. The secondary position I would say is the Royals and the Cubs, and then third the Oakland Athletics, because obviously they've sold off more of their players now, and they really only have Frankie Montas and Sean Murphy. But like, there's a lot of players that could get traded by the Royals. You still have Witt, besides Benintendi, that could get traded. You still have Michael A. Taylor. If you really want to trade for
Honestly,
Salvador
think
Perez, you
Witt's
could go there
untouchable.
too. Um, you could, yeah. Again, you could trade for a lot. The Reds still have Castillo. They have Moustakas that they could trade. They have pretty much.
You have Drury, and you also have the potential of trading Jonathan India.
What about Nicholas Castellanos?
Castellanos isn't a Red anymore. Nick Castellanos is a Philly.
Oh, that's right. My bad. My bad.
Yeah, the Philly got him in free agency.
I honestly
But
forgot about that, to be honest with you, but that's okay. At least you corrected me on that.
but teams that I am in the thinking of they should be sellers or really should highly consider selling. Obviously, Oakland, Cincinnati, the Cubs, the Nationals, the Royals. But now I am quite possibly, if possible, looking at saying the Red Sox. I now think that latest slump may lead to a little bit of selling, but the injuries that are currently in place in Boston may keep the selling portion out. And Boston may have to stand pat and not upgrade much of anything. Now, the second question I have here is who are teams that you think should be buying right now? Or maybe looking more to kind of build buying in the sake of like more so being like replacing a player or buying in the sense of putting themselves in a position to do that or to make a playoff run or really make a solid push. And this also and it will also include kind of the upgraders here too. You're buying for the potential of a playoff spot.
I think one of them would have to be the Braves. Um, and then another one would have to be, man. It'd have to be the Braves and the Mets and maybe the Dodgers, but like definitely the Braves, because their relievers are kind of a hit or miss, but you can say the same thing with the Dodgers because they lost Daniel Hudson, but they have a good amount of talent on their squad, and the Braves have a bit of a question mark when it comes to Kenley Jansen because of his injury issues or lack, well, not even lack of, but like just like history of like injuries with like his heart problems. But yeah, and then the Mets definitely need to fix up their pitching, and they have a decent amount of hitters that they could get, but they could also probably upgrade a little bit on that. But I would probably focus on pitching if I was the Mets as far as relievers.
I think teams that should be considering a lot of the heavy buying, or at least really, really good coverage for buying. I have the Cleveland Guardians as a really unique situation for that. I also am going to say the Tampa Bay Rays, with the injuries that just kind of came about for them. I have the Tampa Bay Rays as major buyers as well. And then I also said the San Francisco Giants should buy at this point. And not so that their playoff chances don't go buy. I know that was terrible pun work.
Not really. Um, I just think it'd be kind of a weird thing to see the Giants buy, but especially the Rays, just on the fact of how they handle their financials. Because like the Giants, I can see them buying, but the Rays really no. They invest a lot, yes, with Ronald, like they did with the Wander Franco, but they haven't really shown like, oh, we're gonna like actually go after a player and then see how that goes in the postseason. That really never happens with the Tampa Bay Rays. They do plug and play with either waiver wires or trades, but they do not really go big. And yes, they could trade for somebody and like be like low key about it, but I don't see them as buyers.
Say that really when I'm talking about buying like a big heavy buy, I'm not talking like busting the block.
Right.
I'm talking like getting somebody solid enough, even if it's on a rental, to cover a major position. The Tampa Bay Rays now should be considering looking at Wilson Contreras because Zunino is not going to be there.
Yeah, but how much is Contreras on his contract? And also, like, let's say like they wanted to upgrade their outfield. How much are they willing to go to get someone that's like a big name or semi big name? Like, let's say Ozuna gets traded from the Braves to the Rays. How much are you willing to spend on Ozuna or someone that is wanting to be traded? Let's say Michael A. Taylor wants to be gets traded to the Rays. How much are, I mean, obviously the Rays would go for that, but also you don't know what you'd get in return, but also it's just like a gray area of how much the Rays are willing to spend
Oh,
because like yeah, like go ahead.
where I'm at. Wilson Contreras is under 10 million, and half the season's already gone. Wilson Contreras becomes an unrestricted free agent next year. This is solid because you basically can get Contreras under a rental, or if you feel like wanting to keep him around for longer than that particular time frame, you've kind of got the first priority of trying to extend him. And Wilson Contreras is enough that it's not gonna break the bank for him. As Tampa is usually like a solid like Moneyball style team. So really, Wilson Contreras, I think, is should be somebody that Tampa considers.
What if they
Um,
also trade for CJ Crone?
I don't know. I don't know if I honestly don't know if Tampa would be the right spot for that. I honestly think if you were to do like a solid, like straight up, I'm not too sure how the contracts kind of hold for that, but a solid piece here would be CJ Crone and Trey Mancini being exchanged.
We will have to see.
Hmm. Yep. But now that the pre-trade deadline speculation is there and done with. Yeah, because I was waiting for you to kind of like mention that response there at that point. But now we are to setting the lineup. Ruckus, go ahead and introduce that segment.
Alright, setting the lineup is a weekly segment where Spence and I will have a start bench cut scenario and we debate the decision. If you have any suggestions for this segment, mention them to us through the comment section on YouTube or our Twitter handles. This week
Yep.
is a Would You Rather Aaron Rodgers edition.
The question here is who would you rather have all time as your quarterback? Aaron Rodgers or the first one on this list is Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes for the win.
I think I would probably take Patrick Mahomes. Wife and brother aside, but I would take Patrick Mahomes.
I don't give a crap about their uh his wife
It's a
and brother. It is what it is. Yeah. So
Drew
let's go to the next
Brees.
one. Um, I'm gonna go Breeze.
I think I agree with you. I think I'm also looking Breeze. Brett Favre.
Favre.
I think at this point I would take Rodgers. I think I'd take Rodgers because though Brett Favre was a gambler and could throw the ball hard, I think Rodgers is a little more calculated with some of those gambles than Brett Favre ever was. I think the student has surpassed the mentor here. Joe Montana.
I'm gonna be honest. Rodgers.
Yeah, I love Montana. I love Joe Montana. But I think I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers here as well. Tom Brady.
Brady. As much as I hate the man, Brady.
I almost think it's hard to go wrong either way. But I gotta respect the guy. At least as at a quarterback at this state. Tom Brady. Troy Aikman.
Rodgers.
I agree, Rodgers. Steve
Because
Young.
at least Rodgers can establish the run. Okay, for Steve Young versus Rodgers, I'd have to say Rodgers.
I think I'm gonna take Steve Young here. I think you give Steve Young the right cast to go along with his mobility, and Steve Young also can run the football. I'm going to take Steve Young here. John Elway.
Rodgers.
Ooh, that's tough because Elway is a very. I think Elway overall was a little bit smarter of a quarterback. I probably will go Rodgers to be safe. Dan Marino.
Rodgers.
I think at this point, I probably am going to go Dan Marino. And that's because Dan Marino did a lot more with a heck of a lot less. Peyton Manning.
Manning.
I'm taking Peyton here. Russell Wilson.
If it wasn't for his head coach and Pete Carroll, I would say Russell, but Aaron Rodgers.
I I think I'm probably in terms of a solid body of work. The MVPs would lean you toward Rodgers, but I think in terms of like the solid quarterback play that you're going to get from all facets of his game, I am going to go Russell Wilson. Terry Bradshaw.
I'm gonna go Terry Bradshaw. Not scary Terry, but I mean he could be scary if his with his bald head. But Terry Bradshaw.
I'm taking Aaron Rodgers here. Terry Bradshaw, really, in terms of us being the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, it, for even those type of teams, Terry Bradshaw really wasn't all that great. He really wasn't. Rogers is miles ahead. Taking Rogers here. Fran Tarkenton.
Rodgers.
Yeah, I'm probably going to take Rogers, though. Tarkenton did bring the modern scrambling quarterback in like years ahead of his time. Big Ben, Roethlisberger.
I'm gonna say Rodgers.
I think I'm in a Rogers camp as well here. Jim Kelly.
I didn't know a whole lot about Jim Kelly, but um, since that's the case, I'm gonna have to go Rodgers.
Go Jim Kelly here because he was the man can throw the ball super accurately. I mean, you have a Hall of Fame receiver with him with Andre Reed. Not was very not a big mistake maker in terms of throwing the ball as a quarterback. I think I'm gonna take Jim Kelly, but that one is definitely very, very close to being a push. All right, so we're really not gonna have much of a simulation today. As we have really not much in terms of like major game type things to really talk about. So we are now going to go to our war room, which is a sports flex. Ruckus and I have each come up with random sports questions from 5 different categories. Most points wins, and one special rule here is that only once in this game can we call for multiple choice. The only answer that we cannot, or the only question we cannot do for a multiple choice as one of our categories is jersey math. The categories, along with jersey math, are MLB trade deadline deals, innovations and rule changes throughout sport, NBA players by resume, and NFL pass catchers, talking about wide receivers and tight ends. However, each of us took a division as a niche. Ruckus took the AFC West, and I will have the NFC East. So my question is, Ruckus, which one of my categories or my questions as far as categories do you want first?
Let's go with NBA players by resume.
NBA players by resume. Okay. So this player, and by the way, guys, the condition for NBA players by resume, we did all time. And pretty much, I would say, if you hopefully you chose somebody, at least somebody somewhat recognizable.
I did.
This player was a second overall draft pick in 1990 from Oregon State by Seattle and was an all rookie selection for the 1990 to 1991 season. He had career splits of 16.3 points per game, 3.9 boards, 6.7 assists, and 1.8 steals. Was a 9-time All-Star, a 9-time All-NBA selection, and a 9-time All-Defensive selection. He was the 1995-96 Defensive Player of the Year. Was traded to Milwaukee as part of a deal that included Ray Allen. He won an NBA championship in 2006 and was inducted to the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in 2013. Is a member of the NBA 75th anniversary team. Can you name him?
Gary Payton?
That is Gary Payton. Yes. You got my NBA players by resume correct.
Yeah.
What was the clue that ultimately said, yes, this is Gary Payton?
I think it was Seattle.
Oh, so the Oregon State by Seattle?
Yeah, cause like cause when you said that, I pictured him in Like Mike whenever he gets like very aggressive with little Bow Wow, like in the foul. I think it was like a jump ball sequence in that movie, but he was like viewed as a person that's really like just in general aggressive and also just in the face of people.
Yeah, but I think I clearly knew it. If I wouldn't have given you the team off of that, was there another clue that said, yeah, you knew this one?
Maybe the '90s somewhere along there. I don't know when Like Mike was made, but that was my
Like Mike, I think
childhood.
was in the 2000. It was 2000s, but I would have said I think the one that would have gotten me, I probably would have had traded to Milwaukee as part of a deal that included Ray Allen.
I just figured it was a good guess.
All right. So I am going to go with. I think I am going to take my innovations and rule changes category here.
Alright, so this one is a multiple choice, but
Oh, did you give it as multiple choice, or because I would only have to call for it?
right, you would have to call for it, but I'm just saying I have it as backup. Alright.
Right.
This is an NFL rule, by the way. This
Okay.
rule came into effect in 1933 to allow a pass from anywhere behind the line of scrimmage.
Hmm. The rule about the forward pass?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so this is the forward pass. All right. Yep. So I got that. Okay. So which one of mine are you going with here?
Do you want me to give
Oh,
you the
oh, oh, you're picking a category again. Cuz you're saying I got the forward pass correct. So,
right?
yep. So which one are you? So your remaining categories you still have. You still have MLB trade deadline deals, innovations in sport, jersey math, and AFC West pass catchers.
Jersey math.
Jersey math. Okay. Your three players: Drew Brees for the Saints, Paul Goldschmidt for the Diamondbacks, and Andre Kirilenko for the Utah Jazz.
I'm going to have to
No, you cannot. No multiple choice here.
I'm just gonna guess because you said Drew Brees.
Drew Brees with the Saints, Paul Goldschmidt with the Diamondbacks, Andre Kirilenko for the Jazz.
I'm gonna say the total is 76 for that one.
Incorrect. And my question is where did you go wrong? So what did you say for Drew Brees for the Saints? Or what number were you thinking there?
Maybe like um 15 or 12.
Drew Brees has always worn number 9. No matter where he went, Drew Brees was number 9. Paul Goldschmidt.
I was thinking along the lines of 16.
All of Paul Goldschmidt's numbers have been in the 40s. When he was in the Diamondbacks, he wore number 44. He wears number 46 as a member of the Cardinals now. And then Andre Kirilenko. This one clearly should have been an easy one there because of his nickname.
So his should have been like 40 something.
Yeah, Andre Kirilenko's is an easy nickname. Because it's also named after a weapon.
AK-47.
Yeah, the AK-47, 9 plus 44 plus 47 is 100. MLB trade line or deadline deals.
So are we just skipping the fact that the other one, the rule?
We're picking them in random. Yeah,
Okay.
we're kind of choosing our categories here.
Okay.
We're choosing destinations rather than is that we have the 5 categories, but we're choosing where we go.
Okay. So here's your MLB trade deadline question. This player is a 3-time All-Star, 2005 Gold Glove, and Silver Slugger Award winner. He is also a 2004 World Series champion.
Okay. But are we? But what is the deal? But you also have to mention what the deal was. What was the deal?
He was traded from the Mariners to the Red Sox.
Traded from the Mariners to the Red Sox.
Yep.
Is this Pokey Reese?
Who are you saying?
I said Pokey Reese.
No. I'll give you another. I'll give you
Wait,
another chance.
yeah, because this is like weird because I'm like, because
They
you
won the
kind of,
World Series in 2004.
yeah, I knew it was a Boston player.
You want me to tell you the position?
Yeah, what was the position?
Catcher.
Oh, you did the Jason Varitek deal.
Yep.
Yeah, because the Jason Varitek deal that sent you took the Jason Varitek deal that sent Derek Lowe and what was Derek Lowe and Jason Varitek to the Red Sox.
Yep.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
multiple choice answers were Pudge Rodriguez, Jorge Posada, and Mike Piazza.
Oh yeah. Oh, oh yeah. That was the only problem I have with that question is that you kind of have to break down the deal. You kind of have to break down the deal whenever you actually write the question in there. Whenever you
That's my
write down the
bad.
question, you have to actually write down like the deal. You actually have to write down what the deal or kind of the deal and kind of guide you to the question. All right. Which one are you wanting from mine here?
Innovations and rule changes.
Okay, so the innovations. In the 1970s, Julius Irving and David Thompson popularized dunking the basketball. This was previously considered ungentlemanly. This item was brought into college basketball in 1978, and due to Daryl Dawkins shattering two backboards with dunks in 1979 in the NBA, 3 years later, the NBA brought this upgrade to its game. I have a funny feeling that you're probably going to be wanting to call for the multiple choice here.
Multiple choice, please.
Okay. A, the 3-second lane violation. B, the breakaway rim. C, the 3-point line. Or D, the shatterproof glass backboard.
I'm gonna just say D.
Incorrect. This is actually the breakaway rim.
God damn it! I was thinking it was probably the breakaway rim, but I don't know, because there was a lot of like kind of hoopla with Shaq dunking and then just breaking glass, so I just
Yeah.
didn't know
So
which ones.
so here was what so here was where I gave you like a few different things that kind of steered you would kind of steer you as far as like answers that were close. The 3-second lane violation clearly because in order to dunk you have to be in the paint. The breakaway rim, yeah, you're dunking on the rim. The 3-point line was kind of something there that I kind of like, okay, you've got something that'll force people to get away from the rim. And then the shatterproof glass backboard was the Daryl Dawkins thing, kind of giving you that as kind of like a backboard innovation. No, it's actually that they were able to invent a way to make the rims more flexible instead of the backboards being shatterproof.
All right, are you ready to answer
Yeah,
my?
so I ended up so I'll take the X for MLB trade deadline deals at that point. Um Jersey Math.
All right, so here we go. So first player is Ryan Madsen as a Dodger, and then you have Matt Castle as a Kansas City Chief.
Oh, okay, Matt Castle is in Ryan Matson? Okay.
Yes, the reliever. And then
All
Willie
right.
Mo Pena of the Cincinnati Reds in 2005.
That is a very, very deep number set. I'm gonna say that Willie Mo Pena was probably number 28. Matt Castle 44 or 16, which would make 44. 44 plus Ryan Madsen, the Dodgers. $97?
So Ryan Madsen of the Dodgers was number 50. Matt
Oh,
Castle of the Kansas City Chiefs was number
16.
7.
Oh, he wore number 7. Wow.
And then William Pena of the Cincinnati Reds in 2005 wore the number 26.
I was
So
I
the
was so
total was
close
going to
on
be
Willie Mo.
83.
Wow. I'm gonna say this. I was off on Willie Mo Pena by 2, and I was actually off on Ryan Madsen by 3.
Castle's way off. Like,
9. 9. I went with his New England number instead of his Kansas. I thought his number didn't change from New England to Kansas City, but it turned out it did a little more drastically than I thought.
yes, sir. All right.
So so I ended up adding too much in terms of like really I just added a little too much on each of them.
Are you
All
gonna
right, so you were
answer my innovations and rule changes one?
oh wait, I did. That was your forward pass.
Right. I just didn't know which rule it was. I just didn't know which rule you answered.
I said the forward pass.
Okay. Because I put it as. Because my answer was Rule 8, Article 2. I didn't know how
Yeah,
far we
you
are
had
going
Rule 8,
in.
Article 2. Yeah, this was the innovation. This was the innovation known as the forward pass.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Um,
That's why I said yeah. Is that you're basically talking about like what was the innovative thing that led to that.
yeah,
All right, so
your
you
mic
have
is kind of like
yeah you
hard.
have left for me. You have left for me. Okay, making sure that my connector is good. How am I coming through now?
You're doing all right.
Okay. You have left for me AFC West pass catchers and MLB trade deadline deals.
Let's do LB trade deadline.
Okay. This would have been a nice this day in sports history. Yesterday, on July 26th, 2000, the Philadelphia Phillies sent this future World Series MVP to the Arizona Diamondbacks for Vicente Padilla, Omar Dahl, and Nelson Figueroa. And you have already used your multiple choice.
You said sent to the Phillies.
The Philadelphia Phillies sent this future World Series MVP to the Arizona Diamondbacks.
You said Phillies MVP.
No, World Series MVP.
So he was from, but he was from the Phillies.
He went from the Phillies to the Diamondbacks. He eventually would win a World Series. I said this future World Series MVP.
Is
He was
this?
not on the
It,
day that he was traded, he was not a World Series MVP. He eventually did win one.
can you say what year?
2001.
Was that before he won the MVP or after?
That was the year he did.
Randy Johnson.
You went with the wrong half of that MVP line. You went with the wrong half, unfortunately. It was Kurt Schilling. The correct answer was Kurt Schilling. Because Randy Johnson, in 1998, Randy Johnson was sent from Seattle to Houston. And Arizona picked up Randy Johnson in 1999. Kurt Schilling was traded in 2000, and Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling were co-MVPs of the 2001 World Series. I know, like, and here was the fun part about that multiple choice. had you saved it. You had Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling in that multiple choice.
Yeah. That's the
All
one thing that
right.
sucks.
So I'm down to NBA players by resume and pass catchers. And it should be because I got the forward pass right. We should be at. We should be at. Are we at 1-1 or 2-1?
Feels
'Cause I
like
got-
2-1.
Because I think I got. Because I got my innovations in sport. No, but I think I still have one more to go, which I think I'm at NBA players by resume and NFC East pass catchers. I'm gonna do the NBA players by resume now. No, it's 1-1 with me still having another question to go. I'm on question 4. I'm gonna do my NBA player.
Alright, so your NBA player would be... Here we go. This player from the University of K-State played for Miami, Minnesota, Phoenix, Houston, Milwaukee, the Knicks, and then the Lakers. He won 1 championship with the Lakers. He shoots lefty and plays power forward and small forward.
All-star appearances?
None that I can speak of.
Year of winning the championship with the Lakers.
2020?
2020. You said this player was drafted out of K-State?
Yes, sir.
You said that he started out in Miami, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would this be the NBA draft bust known as Michael Beasley?
Yes, sir.
All right, so that's 2. All right, so you have AFC West pass catchers. On December 13th, 2009, this Denver Broncos receiver broke Terrell Owens' single game receptions record with a 21 receptions game for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Indianapolis Colts in a 28-16 loss.
I would have to say, it has to be either... Man, this one's hard. Would it be Wes Walker?
No! Wes Walker at this point in his career was still a New England Patriot.
Dang it. It was either that or Demaryius Thomas.
No! No! This is Brandon Marshall.
Ah.
This is Brandon Marshall. Because the 2009 season was the year before he ended up going to Miami. It was the last year before he went to Miami. So you finished with 2. And now I have NFC East pass catchers, and I still have my multiple choice.
Okay. Alright, so this NFL wide receivers and tight ends topic. Alright.
Yeah.
So
So
this,
it's the NFC East.
this Eagles wide receiver played 5 years with the team. From St. Louis, Missouri, he had 1,318 yards total in 2014 as an Eagle, and then started his career in 2009 and eventually played for the Kansas City Chiefs. Who was this wide receiver?
Multiple choice.
Um, A. Deshaun Jackson, B. Jeremy Maclin, C. A.J. Brown, D. Devontae Smith.
Well, this pretty much narrowed it down pretty nicely because A.J. Brown is a current Eagle. Devontae Smith is a current Eagle. Deshaun Jackson was never a Kansas City Chief. This is Jeremy Maclin, who went to Missouri.
Yes, sir.
Who was a Mizzou Tiger. Yep. So you're definitely getting better with your questions there. I definitely think that jersey math was very, very obscure. Like those were very, very obscure.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul Goldschmidt has only worn. I pretty much tried to actually give you like a lot of simple ones too for my jersey math because I'm like all of mine. Like two of those players primarily wore only one number in their entire career. Paul Goldschmidt had worn two, and both of them were rather close. So,
All right. Should we go to our weekly stud and
yep,
dud?
yep, we can go to the weekly stud and dud, and I know yours are definitely you had something quite debatable there.
Can I start with mine first and then you go with
Yeah,
yours?
go for it because I know that I had like a lot more on mine.
All right. My stud for this week is Brady Singer with his career high of 12 strikeouts in his last start against the Angels.
All right.
And then my dud is Shohei Ohtani being projected to be traded because of the fact that the journalists think that he's going to be traded.
But I am also in that venturing, and we'll go through this. I think it's not as outside the realm of possibility as we really think it is. The problem that arises is that the Angels are a team that needs to be breaking that really needs to blow everything up and start over and just is likely going to refuse to do so. Is it going to be unfavorable to send Shohei Ohtani away? Absolutely. But I would rather you send Shohei Ohtani away, maybe get a decent MLB player in return and some really, really top tier prospects, than to have to deal with not only Mike Trout's huge contract, but then you've also got Shohei Ohtani on a nice sizable deal too.
Yeah.
So that locks up a lot of your like whatever salary you decide to really have and spend, and it really restricts a lot of your movement that you could have, especially with those players, because although he's a cornerstone of the franchise, sometimes you got to let go of a guy that you think is a cornerstone of a franchise to get some semblance of a team back. My one that was very much up for debate was Aaron Rodgers' entrance into training camp with his simple little outfit that just screams, "Put the bunny back in the box." That bunny should have remained in that box, left untouched, as Aaron Rodgers just looked like straight up Cameron Poe from Con Air. And if you've not seen that movie, it's pretty good. But my actual stud is the other notable Hall of Famer for Cooperstown, and that is Tim Kirkagin. As he has been one of, if not the best contributor to baseball that I have recalled in my lifetime, a major inspiration to how I can get into baseball, of how people can get into baseball, and just hear some of the stories that he's had. I mean, not from too far outside of where I'm at here, but Tim Kirkagin just is pretty much for me like a lot of baseball personified. Or the personification of enjoying baseball and breaking down baseball. You really just think of that guy first. My honorable mention stud is actually to the Salt Lake Bees, which is the AAA affiliate for the Angels, as they performed a very, very slick 6-4-3 ground out that had a diving snag, a flip behind the shortstop's back to the second baseman to a clean throw to first against the Tacoma Rainiers, AAA affiliate for the Mariners. Got more to say on that one there, Ruckus? I mean, this one was actually sent to me by nice guy himself. So I told him, I said I had a place for it. Here it is.
Yeah, I have no opinion on that, really. I think the Savannah Bananas are a very interesting bunch, but I haven't even really seen the documentary for it.
You just have to check that TikTok for the Savannah Bananas. I mean, but they're like a college league team, but they've got like some like pro touring team too, and you just kind of have to. And as far as like which is which, you kind of have to use the TikTok to kind of peel away and figure it out.
Yeah.
But my dud, or I should say, my primary dud, goes to Jaron Duran for losing a ball in center field in the lights against the Toronto Blue Jays that allowed Raimel Tapia to score on an inside the park grand slam. This has led into the most recent skid for my Red Sox and may cause us to become sellers at the deadline instead of buyers. But this is also to go on top of all of the nasty injuries that the team is currently dealing with that may affect a lot of trades being made. So the Red Sox are just not in a great spot. Some of the baseball they're playing is straight up unwatchable, and the selling of players may not happen due to some other things along the way. But my honorable mention, I gotta call out MLB The Show on this one. For foul net tangibility. I sent you this clip a few days ago.
Yes, you
Ruckus,
did.
as I was playing my March to October, and it was my closeout game of the World Series, no less. The game gives me a fair ball on a home run on a ball that clearly showed, even when I watched it back, the ball was foul. Would I have won it without that? Absolutely. But
I don't know, man. That foul fence says it all.
Oh no, I eventually smacked a home run with I think it might have been Mancini. Or I hit a major home run with another player like later on that actually made it like 4-1. Which I probably, without that 2-run home run from Glaber because of that, it would have been 2-1, which would have given me just enough. The clip is on my Twitter, and my voice doing a John Boy style breakdown which was nowhere near that good. but I kind of tried my best John Boy with it.
It felt like one, at least to me.
It felt like one, so it may have been something. But I at least did the best I could with it. So Ruckus, we ready to shut this thing down?
Alright. Yep. Yes, we are. Thank you for listening to the Ruckus and the Menace podcast. I am Ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus the Menace.
Thank you for listening to our podcast and our technical difficulties as we are going through it. This is episode 17 of Ruckus and the Menace podcast, and we'll see you later. My Twitter handle is at RuckusSports97.
And mine is Ruckus the Menace.
Alright. Have a good night, y'all. See you later.
Yep, have a good night.